We are going to move into the Rotary Foundation presentation, and I put this quote on here just kind of to remind everybody of where it came from. And this guy with the funny name, he came up with the idea to fund Rotary for the future. And he said that we should look at the foundation as being not something of today or tomorrow, but in terms of years and generations to come. And look at what we've done and look at where we've been. This is an incredible thing that Rotary International did, and now clubs are doing their own possible foundations, and we are all raising money for the Rotary Foundation. We have with us tonight Diana Holmes.
I would like to share just a story of an event I attended that was a zone level event years ago, and two fellas came out and did a little skit, and they were dressed up as giant M&Ms. One was one bright color and the other was a different bright color. It was Larry Lunsford, who is a current trustee of the Rotary Foundation this year, and Greg Yank, and he's a past director, recently deceased. So they presented two big M&Ms. One means membership, the other means money. And so Matt has shared with you the membership information. Tonight, I'm going to share the money. And what that is it takes both of those to make our granting programs and our projects come to life. So I learned many years ago also that nothing happens at the district level or the international level. It happens in the club, at the club level, with individual Rotarians carrying out these projects with money that we have raised. So with that, I will go into the information about the Rotary Foundation and share that the gifts that we give to the foundation are not part of our dues, but it's individuals giving to the foundation that generates the pots of money, if you want to talk about it that way. I'm not going to get into the details of the way the funding works and the model works. If you want more details, there's a very good article in the July magazine, and it tells the new, if you will, the new model. The funding percentages and so forth are a little bit different this year. But the stated purpose for this Rotary Foundation is to promote world peace. And there is an expectation for each Rotarian to participate and do their part and donate. Next slide. So the foundation transforms your gifts into those projects, but those projects and the ideas for those projects come from us. So you can think about the district grants, if you will. Those are the projects that we come up with locally, the smaller ones. And then you can think about the global grants. And there are even larger grants that have been mentioned in magazines recently that are even larger than the global grants. It was founded more than 100 years ago, and they have spent lots of money on life-changing and sustainable projects. So the idea is to have each of you go back to your clubs and share with them the importance of contributing to the Rotary Foundation. And of course, there are several levels of doing that. We like to hear of every Rotarian every year giving something. Now, in my club, for example, we have a happy box where we donate a small donation for happy things that have happened or will happen, or announcements and that sort of thing. And when our treasurer sends that money in, it's for polio. And what he does is he takes those contribution forms and divides the amount from the box among all of the members of the club, so that every member of our club contributes to the Rotary Foundation every year, and this gift is designated for polio. You can also become a sustaining member, and the level there is $100 a year. And of course, if you give as much up to $1,000, and that can be done over time, over a number of years, however long it takes, the total of $1,000 will give you a recognition as a Paul Harris Fellow. And if you decide that you want to be a little more aggressive in your giving and want to give $1,000 every year, that places you in the membership of the Paul Harris Society. Okay, so the benefactor level is if you want to include something in your will at the $1,000 level or above. Major donor is once you've accumulated $10,000. The Bequest Society normally has gifts of maybe stocks or insurance policies or some other way that you could designate it in your estate planning. The Arch Clump Society is at a much higher level at $250,000. The Charity Navigator has identified the Rotary Foundation as a 4-star charitable organization, and we've had that designation for over 10 years. And you can see from this list that the Rotary Foundation is well known and has been heard of by a number of folks. Okay, coming back down to our district level, if you will, our district grants, I'll talk a little bit more about that. The grant cycle for our district grants is starting right now. So what it is of the giving that we contributed to the Rotary Foundation 3 years ago, that money is split in half. Part of it goes to the World Fund and part of it comes to the district, as well as paying the administrative costs of the foundation. But of that part that comes to the district, our district governor can use up to half of that for our own local projects. So this year, our total is down, and you'll see that in a slide in a minute. But this year's amount is $27,835. So anyway, the projects are controlled locally, which means you will make application, and then a committee will determine which applications will be funded. And because the giving has come down over the years, of course, we don't have as much. And if you'll look back on this slide, back in 2010, when district grants kind of were created, at least the way we deal with them, it was over $70,000. And of course, now we're at maybe much less than half of that, about a third of that. So remember that the giving is done 3 years ahead of when we receive it. So this is the list of our contributions over the last few years, and you can see how those numbers are coming down, and we want to try to make 21, 22 a much better year and bring those numbers back up. But it's going to depend on how much you work with your clubs to get those contributions up. Okay, in order to qualify for a district grant, you have to be certified. And I've noticed that there are 4 clubs that have qualified this year. Your application will be submitted on DACDB. And if you're not familiar with that, once you log into DACDB and get into the grants module, there are videos that you can click on a link on the left and watch those videos to help you go through the process of completing that application. The deadline this year, excuse me, is August 31st, but you must have closed all previous year's grants before you can, before your application will be considered. And I checked today, and there are 6 clubs that still have final reports from last year that need to be completed before you submit an application. Okay, well, I mentioned the global grants, and Nancy has already mentioned the fact that we have 7 areas of focus with the environment added new, I believe this year is the first year. So the global grants do have to align with one of the areas. The global grants must respond to a community need, and there is actually a requirement of doing a needs analysis with the community that the project will be done with. So be sure that you dig into the details before you start with the application process. It must include the community and also Rotarians participating in the project. And the focus needs to be to strengthen the knowledge or the skills or resources for that community. Must have sustainable benefits, measurable, and the budget must be at least $30,000. John has mentioned the fact that he would be available to answer questions by email, and you can see his email addresses on this slide. I do appreciate the fact that you all have attended tonight and are willing to listen to these facts about the Rotary Foundation and also the membership that you've already heard, as well as the breakout areas that we'll be going into in the near future. So that concludes my remarks at this point, and I will be open to answer any questions. I think there's a few minutes left before we need to break.
Diana, I had a question that someone asked about the memorandum of understanding. Where is that posted, and what does it take for a club to complete it to get certified to apply for grants?
Okay, the instructions for becoming certified are on the district website, and that's rotary6150.org. And it's under the foundation link. And once you click on that, tab, on the foundation tab, the links drop down and it's the district grant link that you would go to. And it involves signing of the memorandum of understanding, which takes 2 signatures. The form indicates that it's, I believe, president and president-elect, but that's not necessary. It can be any member of the club. So any 2 Rotarians need to go through that certification process and sign the memorandum of understanding. And the instructions for uploading that to the Dropbox are on that website.
If anybody needs any help with that, Christina from Club 99 is an overachiever, and she's already done hers.
There are 4 that have already done them, so congratulations to those.
Yeah, very good. All right. Anybody else have any questions, concerns, issues that they want to touch
I have
on?
a quick question, please.
Okay, Marianne.
Diana, how is there a time frame once August 31st gets here and applications have been submitted? Is there a time frame in which we should hear back whether we have been approved for our grants or not?
Well, that's a very good question, and I will tell you the process. We have a committee in place. They will review those applications over the first 2 weeks in September, and we will then meet. And this year we may meet by Zoom, but we will still meet and determine which ones can be funded based on the amount of money that we have. Then those applications, the information is then entered into the district grant application. And what it is a small summary of the project with the amount requested. And that is then in turn sent to the Rotary Foundation. They have to approve it. And that will take sometimes up to 2 weeks, more like 10 days to 2 weeks. And so you should hear something early October and maybe end of September. As soon as we hear from the foundation, we let the clubs know.
Okay, thank you.
Please
And Nancy-
understand too that projects cannot have any money spent prior to approval by the Rotary Foundation. So you really can't start spending money until that October timeframe, if you will, which I know kind of puts it late for the school projects that you want to do, but that's a requirement. You cannot start a project until it's approved.
And Nancy has put a link in the chat box for anybody who wants access to that grant paperwork. And thank you, Nancy, for that. And Charles Harris has pointed out that the website says that the 2021 final reports weren't due until October 1st, but that is in error. Those reports were due the end of July.
Well, actually, the website is correct, but in order for us to determine whether or not you qualify for this year's grant, we need to have those done really before the deadline that it states. And what I'm referring to is when the Rotary Foundation looks at that deadline is 1 year from when you received the money for that grant. So most of the money last year was sent out in October. So that's why you have until October to do the final report, but we really want them before that.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So you've got a deadline.
It is confusing.
And it's coming
but
up.
Yeah, a technicality, if you will.
That's good. That's okay.